going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 39, the final episode of season 1 of 10th Inning Screwballs. I'm Dante Esposito.
And I'm Sevi Esposito. Dante, give me a Yankee 39 for our last episode.
He was one of my favorites back in the day, Melky Cabrera.
Good one. So a little bit of trivia about the number. Of all the numbers used by Yankees over the years, it was the second most commonly used number out of all the numbers. I think number 26 was the most commonly used, 39 right behind it. A lot of guys. When you got that many, you actually had two Greens. You had Chad and Sean Green. You had Darryl Strawberry, who, unlike Trevor Bauer, was given a second chance by George Steinbrenner, although initially resisted by Joe Torre, and he helped us win a couple of championships. On and on and on and on. A lot of guys use numbers, but my favorite is Steve Hamilton. Steve Hamilton pitched in the lean years for the Yankees in the 7 years in the 60s, mostly as a relief pitcher, but most remembered for his pitch that he called the Folly Floater, which is an eephus pitch, where you take the ball and toss it straight up and land into the catcher's glove, and batters are swinging out of their spikes. And I had the good fortune of going to a doubleheader. When there were doubleheaders, you pay one price for two games. Went to a doubleheader against the Cleveland Indians. One of the great doubleheaders in the history of the Yankees, and it happened to be during those lean years, where two things happened. First, Bobby Mercer hit 4 consecutive home runs, tied Lou Gehrig's record at the time, where he hit one in the bottom of the ninth of the first game off a sudden Sam McDowell, and comes back and hits 3 more consecutively with a walk mixed in the second game. And in that same game, with the monuments on the field at Yankee Stadium in center field, the ball went behind the monuments, and Mercer didn't know which way to go, and he went in between the monuments to get the ball. Can you imagine this in today's baseball? But Steve Hamilton, back to him, throwing this Folly Floater to Tony Horton of Cleveland. And when Horton popped out, he threw his bat in the air. He walked back to the dugout disgusted and got on his knees and crawled into the dugout, and he would put on a show, which was really cool. He wasn't a jerk about it. He made light of his own situation. That's all I got, Dante. It sounds like a Super Bowl episode. Yes?
Yes, indeed.
Go for it.
So, with it being the last episode of the season, like you just mentioned, it's going to be all about last night's game. Chiefs beating the Niners in overtime. My take on this, look, knew it was going to happen. You can't bet against the Chiefs. I said it last week. Crazy how the Chiefs were dogs in this game. And what Mahomes said after the game, the Chiefs are never underdogs.
Yeah.
It's the truth. It just felt so weird to me that they were underdogs, and never a doubt in my mind. But it was a great game. It was a sloppy first half.
Yeah.
It was a sloppy 3 quarters, actually. And I'm going to say this before you start bashing me for some reason.
Brock got to do Purdy. Yeah, here we go.
Purdy, he played a good game.
Trey did.
But you know what the difference was? By the guy who could take over games, who's in a tier of his own, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Tier of his own. And that it just continuously adds on and proves that Mahomes is unlike anybody. And guess what? I don't like to say this because I don't use this term lightly. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Oh, boy.
Period. He may not have all the Super Bowls that Brady has, but guess what? Jordan's the GOAT of basketball, not Bill Russell. If you're talking about the greatest all time means championships, okay, fine. Then it's Brady,
right.
Then it's Bill Russell. But Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback of all time.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I'm going to help your cause, but argue it at the same time, just for a second, okay? So bear with me on this. I'm going to put up a couple of graphics here, all right? The first one talks about quarterbacks in their first 6 seasons as a starter, okay? And for Mahomes, in those first 6 seasons, 6 AFC title games, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl titles, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and 2 NFL MVPs, all right? Now, second graphic here. Players in all of the major U.S. sports that have had 3 championships and 2 MVPs in their first 7 seasons. That's NBA, MLB, NHL. Nobody had ever done it in the NFL prior to Mahomes. Larry Bird did it. Bill Russell did it. Guy LaFleur did it. Stan Musial, Mickey Mantle, and Joe DiMaggio. Okay? Those are the only guys to have ever accomplished that until Mahomes. So, to your point, we're talking about greatness here. To my point, and I'm going to let you continue after this, I just wanted to throw that up there since you mentioned those, him being the greatest quarterback of all times. One graphic talked about the first 6 seasons. The other talked about the first 7 seasons, right? Neither talked about an entire career, all right? He's got a ways to go before we talk about him being the greatest. I remember people talking about Mike Tyson being the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, and that didn't pan out. So we got to see with time. But yes, is he on the trajectory to be the greatest? That's hard to argue. But I just wanted to jump in when you mentioned that. Please continue.
He's there. We just saw nobody could take over a game like he did. Even when Brady back in his prime, nobody takes the game over like Mahomes. He is literally different. But back to the point that I made earlier, very sloppy game. Very sloppy game. There was a punt that hit a Niner in the foot. The Chiefs get the ball inside the 20, sets the Chiefs up, one play, touchdown, boom. Very sloppy game. But kudos to Purdy. He didn't look phased in the first 3 quarters. I think when it was a back and forth game, when the Niners were kind of letting the Chiefs hang around, it looked a little tough. But I do want to say a couple of big drops on the Niners end. But it just, in the third quarter, you let the Chiefs hang around. When you are dominating the game, you can't do that. Because when you let Mahomes hang around, Mahomes takes it himself.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
He takes the ball. He runs it himself. When he's not known as this Lamar Jackson runner, he just takes it up. He takes over the game. This is all Mahomes. And the one thing I haven't said yet, it's my last point about the game. Jake Moody kicks an extra point. The game's over in regulation. The Niners win. He misses it. They lose. The game falls on Jake Moody, but you praise Mahomes.
So a couple of things I just want to, again, support what you said. Mahomes had 80-something% of the offensive yardage in the second half for his team. That's crazy, between throwing and running, right? And we're talking about a team that does well with Pacheco on the ground and so on and so forth. No, Mahomes had 80-some-odd% of all of the offensive yards, okay? He was the leading rusher in the game, and he's the only quarterback to lead his team in rushing in a Super Bowl and win. What that means is you've had guys who were running quarterbacks and they just weren't great quarterbacks and they lose, okay? This guy led his team with his legs as well and won, all right? So, and that's never been done before. So the guy's phenomenal, all right? So a couple of things about what you were saying. You know, you started talking about Purdy and you started to compliment him a little bit, and then you immediately compared him to Mahomes. That's ridiculous. You can't compare him to Mahomes. Mahomes is in a league by himself. So you can't measure Purdy against Mahomes. That's ridiculous. All right? You have to measure Purdy against Purdy. All right? Period. And he looked totally in control, totally comfortable, was making the big-time throws. Anybody who thinks this is a guy who is a product of great tools around him is dreaming, okay? He looked top-notch, and I'm getting bashed on our chat page right now, okay? Because I made some comments about how a missed extra point away from winning that game, and rightfully so. Some people are pushing back, giving me, hey, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda. You can't say that. That's part of the game. And I get that, okay? But still in all, if the ball doesn't hit that guy's ankle on a kickoff, on a punt, if the kicker doesn't miss a chip shot extra point, Brock Purdy's the MVP yesterday, and he knocks off the Chiefs. He was the best player on the 49ers yesterday. He was better than McCaffrey. He was the best player on the 49ers sideline yesterday for that game, for the big game, for the Super Bowl. He rose to the occasion. When the Chiefs took the lead in the second half, he didn't fold up. He came back and threw a touchdown pass and took the lead back. So that's not a rookie. That's not a guy who's only played 5 games prior to this season. That's not a Mr. Irrelevant. I talk some nonsense sometimes when I say he's this high on the chart, and he probably isn't as high as I've said in some previous episodes. Okay, but this guy is a top quarterback. All right, and maybe he's not the 4th or 5th. I don't know. Okay, maybe I said those things in our arguments and our debates, but he's a top quarterback, and there's a lot of guys that get a lot of love. Okay, from the guy in Philadelphia to the guy in Dallas. You know what? He's better than them. I'll take him. I'll take him over Dak. I'll take him. All right. And he looked cool as a cucumber. He wasn't awestruck of the big moment. Before the game started, Tony Romo was talking about he's going to have butterflies and let's see how he comes out. He came out slinging. He looked calm the whole game. Really good showing for the kid. However, a whole bunch of opportunities in the red zone turned into field goals. Yeah. And you said you can't let the Chiefs hang around. You can't let Mahomes hang around. You can't let them hang around. They had their foot on the Chiefs' neck. They needed to push down and crack it, okay? But they didn't. They let them survive. And if you let Mahomes survive, he's going to beat you, all right? And a bunch of opportunities that turned into field goals should have been touchdowns. And that's where Brady is really good. Purdy is really good, but Purdy is not that guy. That guy makes touchdowns. Brady made touchdowns. Mahomes makes touchdowns, and Purdy didn't. Purdy didn't convert those, all right? And as terrific as I think he is, there's your game. The game is not the missed extra point later on, and it's not the ball bouncing off the guy's foot. It's the missed opportunities when they had them, all right? And that's where you have to say that, he's not Mahomes and he's not Brady yet, and probably never will be, but he was damn good. He was damn good, and boy, would I love him to wear this jersey. Would I love him to? Would I love it? But I want to talk about Travis Kelce. All right. I have no, there's a lot of purist NFL fans that are sick of the whole Kelce and Swift and the camera going up to her. I have no problem with that. And them kissing and loving and doing the papers. I have no problem with that. Certainly, the NFL doesn't have a problem with it. It's bringing more fans in and making more money on it, right? That's why they show her up there. So, but I have no problem with it. That's fine. I saw it with Tony Romo and his actress girlfriends in the past. And hell, Joe DiMaggio was married to Marilyn Monroe. I got no problem with any of this, all right? So I have no hate for Travis Kelce, all right? And, he's been quietly yet still outspoken about his political stances, and I'm not big on these guys that take their celebrity platform to politics, but that's cool too. But when he went over to Andy Reid yesterday, losing his mind because he wasn't on the field, and deliberately banged into this 70-year-old older coach, almost knocked him down, and then had to be ushered away from him as he barked in his face. That's your head coach. I don't care how much money you're making on silly commercials for Pfizer or for the insurance companies or whatever the hell else you're doing. I don't care if your girlfriend is a billionaire singer. I don't care if you have a podcast that everybody's in love with today. Okay, I don't care. And I don't care how talented you are. And you're one of the most talented, greatest tight ends in history. I get that. All right, I don't care. That guy was your coach. You don't do that. Millions of people saw this. Little kids watching the Super Bowl saw this. Everybody thinks that because you're Taylor Swift's boyfriend and we all love you now, that's kind of acceptable, even if it was unfortunate. No good. He's dead to me. Now I'm a hater. And he doesn't care. He care less about me, I know, but I don't care. I lost all respect for him at that moment. Done.
No, I don't blame you. When people talk about hating the Chiefs, I always asked why. And I get people that said they hate Mahomes and they hate Kelsey. And up until last night, I agree with you. I never hated Kelsey. Maybe I don't like who he's become. I think he kind of sells himself to be the spotlight or in commercials or whatever. I think he did sell himself. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but whatever.
Yeah.
But after last night, I don't like him, and it's a shame because I had nothing against the Chiefs. I really didn't, and I don't know. Is this really going to affect me with the Chiefs? And I don't want it to be. I don't want to dislike the Chiefs because I love Mahomes. Right? We met him. He's a great guy, fun. He's an energetic player. He's like I said, I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And I don't want to just start disliking the Chiefs because of this idiot and because of his antics. And honestly, as fans, we should have saw this coming because in the preseason, he's punching his teammates. Then I'm okay with him throwing his helmet. That's okay because you're not impacting other players. Now going after your coach during the Super Bowl, that's unacceptable. So, yeah, I'm not a Kelsey fan anymore. He's done. I don't think. And even after the game, they asked him about that, and he kind of smiled and started laughing about it. And he said, "Yeah, I'll keep that one private." No, that's your time where you should apologize and say that's not right. I should not have done that.
No, he made a snotty comment about it. They said, "What were you saying to your coach?" I was telling him I love him. He's being a wise ass, right? And also, and maybe worse than that is at one point last night, somewhere in Nashville, in Graceland, 6 feet under, Elvis Presley was turning over when that idiot was singing "Viva Las Vegas," which made me completely crazy. That may have even been worse. Moron, freaking moron! Oh my god. Hey, so I wanted to talk about there's a big debate over Shanahan's decision to take the ball first in overtime. Okay, so a big debate, and we all know the negatives of that, right? Once you score, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, the opponent gets the ball back, and now they know what they need. They know if they had to play 4 downs or kick after 3 or whatever, because they know exactly what they need. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, I did go back home to watch Super Bowl with you. And that was actually the first thing I said was, why is he electing to receive? Now, if you want to put the pressure on Mahomes and you think that your offense can go down, get a touchdown, put the pressure on, Chiefs need a touchdown, I don't buy that because Mahomes doesn't crumble under pressure. If anything, that makes him perform even better. So the argument of we want to put the pressure on, I don't like that. I think it's a no-brainer to kick because maybe you do stop Mahomes and then you just need a field goal to win. And a field goal is a lot easier to get than a touchdown. And you've been struggling to get touchdowns during the entire game.
All right.
So I don't like it at all.
Okay, so when they asked Shanahan about it, the first words that came out of his mouth and the hair went up on the back of my neck was analytics. Like he says, so the analytics say that's the way to go. So immediately I was like, oh, no, not analytics. But let me tell you why I would have done what he did. And here's the flip side of the coin, okay? Under the new rules, they both get a chance to get the ball each, right? Both teams. So if you get the ball first, let's imagine you score 6, okay? Let's say make it a touchdown. You score 7, and the other guys score 7. Or you get a field goal, 3, and the other guys get. As long as after one possession each, it's tied, the team who got it first now is in a sudden death situation. And you score, you win. They don't get a chance to even it up. So hypothetically, you're looking at 2 possessions against 1, possibly, right? That's a big advantage. So I understand the negative, okay, and it worked out that way. But I think I would have gone the way Shanahan went. I would have felt my guys can go downfield and score and maybe get a touchdown. And then if they get a touchdown, I'm guaranteed to get the extra look. And if we get a field goal, all we got to do is hold them to a field goal, and I get the extra look. You just don't do anything against Mahomes. That's all it comes down to. It's because Mahomes. That's Mahomes. He's unbelievable how he took control of the game, running, passing, he did everything he had to do to win that game. It was unbelievable. He's a special dude. He's a special dude.
Yeah. See, you said that you get the extra possession, but that is assuming that you get a touchdown on that drive. Because guess what?
No.
In the playoffs against Mahomes, you have to bank on him getting a touchdown. You can't think the Chiefs are going to get a field goal here. You have to assume that Mahomes is getting a touchdown. That's why I don't like it.
You have to assume that you're going to score the same amount of points as them. That's what you're assuming. And so far, for 4 quarters, you have. So I can see it both ways. I would have gone the Shanahan way. I know. The analytic people see it like Shanahan. The people, the general public right now see it the opposite way. I happen to see it his way. But we've gone through the pros and cons. We did it. That's it on Super Bowl. And this was a Super Bowl episode as far as that is concerned. But now we're going to move to the that part of the show that we call Yesterday, Today, Before, and After, when Dante talks about something in any sport that's on his mind that's happening today. And I'll talk about something that's on my mind that's happened in years gone by. Dante, take it away.
Yeah. So you mentioned it's a Super Bowl episode, so I naturally am going to deviate from the Super Bowl. Now I'm going to talk about something that happened in hockey this week that I think should get the attention. And that is what happened in a game between the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Grieg on the Senators, with time expiring, 5 seconds left, empty net for the Leafs. He's going down the ice, breakaway, takes a slap shot into the empty net to put the icing on the cake. And right after that, Leafs Morgan Riley comes around and cross-checks him right in the face. I wouldn't say a brawl ensues, but a little dog pile, little rough stuff. And all I could say or think is why. Not why did Grieg take a slap shot, because you could score a goal. It's literally an empty net. Put it in however you want. Some players take a real shot. Some just poke it in. He decides to take a slap shot. I don't think there's any disrespect towards a slap shot. My initial thought, which I don't think was the reason, I didn't see anybody even think this reason, time's expiring, this puck needs to go across the line before time expires. I don't know. I don't think there's any disrespect there. But why is Morgan Riley? You already lost the game. Just go back to the blue line, wait for the draw, and then go to your locker room. Why are you attacking the guy? Cross-checking him in the face. It proves nothing to me. The one thing that it does show is I guess you care. But if you're the Leafs, you look at the entire season, there isn't this grittiness, this heart, this passion from the entire Leafs team. So I guess if you're on the positive side, at least you care. But I think it's a terrible time to show that you care. You just got swept by your rivals in the regular season, who, newsflash, are not that good. You're the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're pushing for a Stanley Cup. You shouldn't be losing to the Ottawa Senators. You do. It's frustration. And somehow this gets worse. Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs coach, was asked about what he feels about it, and he says it was warranted, it was deserved, he said, and I quote, it was acceptable. In no way is this acceptable. This is the time where if you're Sheldon Keefe, you take a shot at your player, you say, yes, I'm so glad that he's showing heart, but you can't be doing that. You cannot show that is okay, because it's not okay. And back to what you said about the Kelsey yelling at his coach's face. It's not the same thing. But you think that a player won't think, oh, just lost the game, it's okay for me to just go after the opposing player? Because guess what? When you're a star like Morgan Riley, kids look up to you. And I'm not saying that's going to happen in youth leagues, but it might. And in no way should that be acceptable. And shame on Morgan Riley. And the league better suspend him for 4 or 5 games. Because I know if that happened to the Leafs, it's at least a 5-game suspension.
It's interesting you say it shows that he cares. You're one of the only 2 people on earth I know that would think that dropping your gloves and beating somebody up means you care. But the other person is me, so I really can't argue about it. So, all right, watching the Super Bowl. I'm all Super Bowl crazy. It was a great game. People are saying it's the best Super Bowl ever. It was the greatest Super Bowl drive at the end, and started thinking about the greatest. It's the greatest in Super Bowl history, and lots of games were great. Lots of games in the early years of Super Bowl were not so great. They kind of stunk for a long time. So I thought about what did I think were the three most important Super Bowls of all time. Okay, the ones that were really that made a difference historically. So the first one, and you all know what I'm going to say, but was Super Bowl III, Jets Colts. All right, Jets won that game 16-7. You got to understand what led up to that. The first two Super Bowl games were romps. The great Vince Lombardi, Green Bay Packers destroyed the Chiefs in the first one, 35-10. It wasn't called Super Bowl then. It was called the NFL AFL World Championship game. And then after that, Lamar Hunt, who was the owner of the Chiefs and the league president and always trying to find ways to merge together with the NFL, his son was playing with this super bouncy ball called a Super Ball. Some of you older people may remember that. And he saw Super Bowl. He said, we should call this thing the Super Bowl. And that's how it got its name in time for the second one. Well, anyway, the second one rolls around, and now the Packers, Lombardi, again destroy the AFL team. They destroyed the Raiders in Super Bowl II. This one, 33-14. It was a joke. Okay, so Lombardi temporarily retires from coaching, and the Baltimore Colts come around, and they're an unbelievable team, and people are saying that they're better than the Lombardi Packers were. They were barely, just about unbeatable. They only lost one game all year. They rolled into the Super Bowl. They played the NFL championship game over the Browns and won 34-0. So they were head by a stud young coach, Don Shula, who would go on to win more games as a head coach than anybody in NFL history, right? That's what Bill Belichick is chasing that record now. Ironically, he replaced the coach who last won a championship for the Colts, who was Weeb Ewbank, who was now the coach of the Jets. And people know this game as, the Joe Namath guarantee game at some function. After he walks away from the microphone, some cat caller yells out and says, you're going to get creamed. He walks back to the mic and says, we're going to win the game. I guarantee it. Everybody thought he was crazy because they were 18-point underdogs. Go out and they win the game. Important because it changed the face of the NFL. It made the NFL realize that the AFL were the real deal and they needed to be considered for a merger, and it changed everything. And that's why you have AFC, NFC today. They merged together just before the merger in Super Bowl IV. The Chiefs then went on and beat the Vikings. So then it was official. These guys are for real. So first most important game, that one. Second most important Super Bowl historically to me was Super Bowl 42, when the Giants beat the Patriots 17-14. Now that game, the Patriots entered the game as 12-point favorites, and they were the first NFL team to complete a perfect regular season since the 1972 Dolphins, and they were the only one since the league had expanded to 16 games. So nobody had won 16 straight, and then they go through the playoffs, and here we are playing the Giants in the Super Bowl, and people will remember this as the drive that is the most memorable drive in Super Bowl history. David Tyree catches a ball on his helmet and holds it there. And then after that, Eli Manning finishes up with a touchdown pass to seal the game. Why is it one of the three most important games in history? It broke up the perfect season, which a team in a 16-game schedule to have a perfect season, the way they were so unstoppable, that kind of changed history. And the third one for me was Super Bowl 51. And that's when the Patriots beat the Falcons in overtime. First of the only two overtime games, the other one last night, where the Patriots were down 28-3 to the Falcons at the half. And you have to understand, there were grumblings at the time that Brady may be getting older. And Belichick was leaning toward Jimmy Garoppolo as this quarterback of the future. So at halftime, with the Patriots down 28-3, Belichick considered removing Brady from that game and going with Garoppolo. And he decided to send, and just before the half, Brady had thrown a pick six. So he was not looking good. And Belichick decides to stick with Brady to start the third period and see what happens. Well, the Patriots storm back with 31 points. They win the game. It's important because it resurrected the second half of Brady's amazing career. And without that change, without that comeback in the second half, if Garoppolo comes in there, history has changed. And the legacy of being the GOAT for Tom Brady maybe never happens. But it happened because he came back in that second half, resurrected himself and the Patriots for the one day. And the second half of his storied career happens because of that. So to me, that's the third of the most important historical Super Bowls. I don't have anything else. This is our last episode of season 1. Before I let Dante tie it up, I just want to thank everybody out there that has been paying attention to us, watching, tuning in from time to time, liking, sharing, following. We started this thing on a lark with 2 followers, and you're looking at the 2 of them. And now there's something like 3,500 followers and a chat page that has nearly 1,000 participants, and it's growing. And we've got interest with some professional players and such that we're going to be speaking to. It's really starting to happen, and it's because of you guys. This was done for the heck of it because I wanted to do something with my son, and he said, let's do it, because he has a radio show and a podcast at school. And I said, sure, I'm in. And that's the only reason this thing started, and I'm loving it. And I want to thank everybody out there because it's because of you guys that it's growing, and I'd love to see it keep going. Dante, it's all yours.
Yeah. Just want to piggyback on what you said. Thank you to everybody. Yeah, if you guys tuned back over to the first episode, I mean, couldn't even finish it because we had technical issues. Yeah.
Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
Yeah. But I would like to just, again, the fact that we've grown, it's because of you guys. We don't grow without you guys. We didn't even have microphones. We didn't have any of that stuff. It's cool just to see the growth and really from episode 1 to episode 39. It's really cool. And season 2, we'll be back. We'll be better than ever, and it's gonna be fun.
And we're gonna take a little breather and regroup, because it's kind of a downtime in professional sports right now. February is that way, it's not only is it a gloomy holiday-less month, unless you count Valentine's Day, but really, well, we don't. But it's kind of that gloomy after the first of the year, nothing going on in your life. It's also that way in sports. So we're kind of taking a little breather. Thank God for The Bachelor. I'm not going to get into it again because we spoke about it a couple of times this year. But yes, that's what I'll be doing now. And but we will be back and hopefully better than ever. So thank you.
Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, nothing's changed. You guys know where to find our stuff. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. Go tune in. If you're not on the chat page already, please join and contribute. Yes, still contribute even though nothing's going on in sports right now. Hit us up. We always love to hear from you. And thank you for making it a very fun season 1 from Dante Esposito.
And Sevi Esposito.
Have a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you soon.
Ciao.